Hello viewers, it's a privilege and honor to have a great versatile personality. The reason I'm saying this is I'm holding a phone. Why? Because I want to give sir's introduction. I just read out. Mr.AmirUllahkhan is a research director at CDPP, an editor of the Journal of Development Policy and Practice, a development economist and former civil servant. He is also adjunct professor at MCRHRD of Government of Telangana. The reason I'm holding because sir has got so many things. So by this I just want to introduce and I want to request and say a big thank you sir. It's a privilege and honor to welcome you here. Thank you so much sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me start by first talking about what we do here and why we have set up this research institute. It is called the Center for Development Policy and Practice. The reason for setting up this institution is to have a research body that looks at issues that concern the marginalized, vulnerable people in the country, most of whom are either the lower caste, Muslims or women. So what we do here is do an extensive research on the various problems that these communities face. And the problems that these communities face are very well known. These groups are those that are way behind the average on access to health, on access to education, in terms of employment, both private and government, and in terms of the ability to earn decent livelihoods. There is also a lot of social and political problem that these communities face, given the situation that we see across the country and across the world today. So what we thought was that we will look at these difficult questions and provide some answers on how these issues can be tackled and how they can be solved. We are a research institute. We don't do anything ourselves. We just provide what literature says, what history tells us, and what analysis we need to do to be able to get doable, scalable, replicable solutions. We have a team that comprises of some of the brightest youngsters working on public policy issues. We set this up a year ago with a number of people who have come forward to help us in doing this work. Personally, I am an economist. I am a professor. I teach at a few places that you are familiar with. I teach at the Indian School of Business. I teach at the National Law School, Nalsar. I teach at Administrative Staff College of India. And as you said, the young IAS officers who come to the Mani Chandaredi Institute.
Yes.
My journey starts off with schooling at various small schools across Murshidabad and Abbots. And then I joined the Hyderabad Public School, from where I finished. I completed my high school and my class 12. Then joined the engineering college at Osmania University. Did a degree in electronics engineering in 1987. Went away to Gujarat to do an MBA. After which I came back to Hyderabad for a while, and with a very dear friend of mine, Faheem, who you will also meet hopefully in this series, we set up and established an Urdu software company 30 years ago. It was one of the first in the world. And Faheem is the technologist who set up the computer corporation, which digitized and made Urdu software possible. We did that. Faheem then moved on to do tremendous amount of work in technology. He now heads a firm that is the first private firm to send a satellite into space with Elon Musk.
Fantastic.
And then I decided one day to join the government. I belonged to the 1993 batch of the civil service. I went and joined that, went away to Mussoorie, and then shifted to Delhi. Delhi, I was very lucky. My first boss, because I worked for the finance ministry, was the finance minister then, Dr. Manmohan Singh. I worked with him, with another famous economist called Raja Chaleya, and for a brief period with one of Hyderabad's most famous economists, A.M. Khusro, who unfortunately died about 18 years ago, but was a brilliant economist. That's where I learned my economics. I got a PhD in economics and started teaching. I first taught in a university in London and then in a university in Australia. Came back, joined the Confederation of Indian Industry. By that time I had quit the government. I joined the Confederation of Indian Industry, set up a research institution called the India Development Foundation, and then started working for a very old and a very well-reputed publishing house called Encyclopedia Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica, I headed their editorial operations. And then when Encyclopedia Britannica went back to the United States, I moved and joined the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Had this great fortune of working with Bill Gates and with Melinda on their endeavor to reach across the poor parts of the world and help those by way of providing better healthcare and better education. So that's what I've been doing for so long. 3 years ago I moved back to Hyderabad after spending 25 years in Delhi, moved back to Hyderabad, and here is where I work very closely with a number of institutions here. I teach in about 5 of them. I work very closely with a very large charitable trust called the Syed Trust, which works in the areas of education and healthcare and disaster management. I work very closely with the MCRHRD Trust in help run their schools. I am also working with another foundation called the Access Foundation, which works with providing livelihood to women. We have set up a consortium also to help people after the floods that impacted Hyderabad, and this consortium has about 24 NGOs that work across the city. So that is my 54-year-old story in 5 minutes.
So, the reason why I have took out my mobile was this, because it's not so easy to talk about a versatile personality, because it's not I'm trying to just talk something great about sir, but the fact of the matter is, imagine sir is a former civil servant. Sir, since you're a former civil servant, I've got a great question now. If people want to be a, do these exams, what are the things and how they can serve?
Yeah, good question. So I must first tell you that this exam, on one hand, is the world's most competitive exam.
Very true.
There is no exam that has that many people applying and that few getting selected.
Very true.
Typically, just to give you a sense, this year about 14 lakh people applied, and you will have about 800 people finally joining the service. So in that sense, it's a very competitive exam. However, it is not a very difficult exam, as most people think it is. It is an exam where, given the right kind of inputs, right kind of training, everybody has a very good chance of getting it. Why do I say that? You see, it is not like the MCRHRD or the medical exam or NEET or whatever, where you have a few seats, you have a very specific set of subjects that you have to become an absolute master in and get into those programs. Here, there is no syllabus. There are no subjects.
Very true. That's interesting insight.
You have to know a little bit about everything. And therefore, it is not about the intensive education that you have, but it is about being extensive in your scope. So, my advice to everybody who wants to join this service is firstly, it is a great job. There is really no job in the country that is better than joining the civil service. Secondly, that each one of you who goes to college and does any degree, whether it is engineering, arts, commerce, medicine, law, each one of you has an equal chance of getting it. The exam doesn't focus too much on your ability to speak, which is what unfortunately is the case everywhere else, that if you learn the language, if you can speak confidently, then you do well in various jobs. Here that's not the case. Here it is your understanding, your comprehension, your sensitivity, your ability to articulate the concept of India, and more than everything else, an understanding of what development means, and what it means to get people out of poverty, what it means to get people educated. It is that kind of sensibility that you need to be able to do well in this exam. Therefore, my advice to everybody who wants to take this exam, and even to those who don't want to take this exam, is that you have to necessarily be very broad in your scope. You have to know everything about everything. You cannot say that I don't like politics, so I will not read that. I don't like media, so I will not follow it. I am not interested in sports, so I will not read. You have to know something about maths, you have to know history, you have to know films, you have to know drama, you have to know history. So read everything that you can get your hands on. Formulate an opinion based on that. Understand what the country is, and therefore it's important to understand what the constitution says, what the freedom struggle says. Once you get a handle on all these topics, then writing that exam is not very difficult. And it is a great exam. At least till now it is an exam where there is no discrimination based on any race, color, religion, nothing. It's a very objective exam. The interview itself is a wonderful experience. In my batch, I was the absolute topper in the interview, and that is what helped me pass that exam. So you will find that that the very experience of taking this exam is a great experience. Even if you do not succeed, the fact that you have written this exam makes you a better person.
It's fantastic, sir. No, I completely, understand, and I'm wholeheartedly immersed in your conversation. The point, what I want to ask is, the moment when you talk about UPSC, when you talk about these exams, common general public has some different notion, but you elaborate perfectly. I think after watching this, definitely they will understand. It's not so tough what they are thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely correct, sir. So since you wrote the exam, in fact you were a civil servant. So after that, where were your posting, sir?
My first posting, all of us get first called to this really fabulous training academy. It is called the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, which is in Mussoorie. It's an old 100-year-old palace built for the Queen. It stands on this really beautiful valley overlooking the Himalayas. That is where the initial training happens. It's a very well constructed pedagogy that teaches civil servants everything about administration. So you spend some time there. Then you go to the various academies across the country to do the various specializations that you are allotted to. There are several services that the UPSC allots you to. The postal service, the defense service, the account service. So there are all various academies. We have a very good academy, two very good academies in Hyderabad. The policemen come and get trained at the Vallabhbhai Patel Police Academy near Miralam Tank, and other officers come to us at the MCRHRD Human Resource Development Institute. The senior IAS officers often come to the Indian School of Business or to the Administrative Staff College of India. So Hyderabad actually has a lot of training that it gives. Then you get posted to various ministries and so on. So I was lucky. I went from Mussoorie to UP, to Ghaziabad, and then I went to Delhi where I worked with the Finance Ministry. I quit very quickly and joined the United Nations.
Oh, you've been to... Okay.
So I worked for the United Nations Development Program, and that is how I moved into academics. Personally, while I still say that the service is the best service in the country, I moved out. And I moved out only because I am far more interested in academics than in anything else. So, and I think that I'm better situated here by way of my shortcomings and my capability. So I moved and I became an academic and a professor. But for all of you, what you will do is you will first go to Mussoorie, or you will go to and then go to your various academies and then get posted in various parts of the country.
That's fantastic, sir. Sir, we heard about, about Bill Gates and, Melinda Gates, all like, what is that all about, sir, if people want to know?
Very good. So you know that, most of you know that Bill Gates, as a very young person, set up a company called Microsoft.
Yes.
That firm became one of the largest firms in the world very quickly, and by the end of the 20th year of Microsoft, Bill Gates by now had become the richest person in the world. He was the richest person in the world at the age of 39.
39.
So he said that he started feeling that there is more that he wanted to do. And one day, both he and Melinda decided that they are going to use their money to improve healthcare access in the world. That was their first objective. Bill Gates says this story very often that when he first read about a particular virus, it's called the rotavirus in Kenya, he realized that he didn't even know the spelling, and he didn't know that there was such a disease that was killing so many children. And the cost of curing that was a very mere small amount for a person like Bill Gates. So he said that I felt that a small little contribution of mine can stop disease in an entire country. So he and his wife both decided that they are going to spend their money in improving healthcare around the world. Then they added education, added a little bit of agriculture, and that is where I joined them. And in India, the Gates Foundation works very extensively in Bihar and in UP in trying to improve conditions of women and child health. The foundation works extensively in China, it works extensively in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, Nepal, and all of Africa. It does a lot of work on education in Europe, and it does some very interesting work in financial inclusion, again across the poor parts of the world. So it's got a big office in Seattle, in the US, where Bill Gates is from, very close to where the Microsoft office is. It has a very large secretariat, about 2,000 people work there now. The foundation spends nearly $4 billion, that's about 30,000 crore rupees every year. And and it does not take any donations. That is the money that Bill and Melinda give to the foundation. So in that sense, it's a very unique foundation. It gave me the chance to work with some outstanding people who work for the foundation across the world, meet some people who are the heroes of the modern world. For example, Jimmy Carter is a great friend of the Gates Foundation, and he will often come there. Joseph Stiglitz, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics, he's a very good friend of the foundation. Because it is Bill Gates, we get some of the best people in the world to work with us.
That's great insight, sir. Since you are an ocean, of the knowledge, that's the reason I'm asking all these questions. Sir, what about finance ministry when you were with Dr. Manmohan Singh? What was your experience?
I was a very young junior researcher, and Manmohan Singh was the finance minister. At that time, it was an exciting time because as finance minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh was carrying out some very significant reforms. All of you have read about the liberalization and privatization, globalization that happened in the early 90s. And because of the significant changes that were happening in the economic structure of India, those of us who were there had a chance to work on a variety of issues. So we worked on the issues of licensing and how to de-license various industries, which was one of the first things that was done. And all the laws that needed to be changed. The project that I was working with was actually called Legal Adjustments and Reforms for Globalizing the Economy. And in that, we worked with some of the best people in the country at that time. Raja Chaleya, who was the author of the tax reforms, Vivek Devroy, who now heads the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, P.J. Nayak, who went and became the UTI chairperson. So these were the people that we worked with, and at that time the finance ministry, as it is even now, was a very powerful ministry and a very important ministry, and it was undergoing some significant reform and change. and to watch that from close quarters was very exciting.
Fantastic, sir. Once you've written a civil servant exam and you passed out and you've got all the privilege to get the benefits, now you are at a position where you are giving education at MCR to young officers. How do you feel, sir?
That's a good question, and this is what I was discussing even in my class yesterday, that I was telling these young officers that when I see them now, I can very easily imagine me 27 years ago sitting on the same chair and listening to people who are talking about the challenges that India faces. On one hand, most of the challenges are still there. We used to talk about poverty and how to fight poverty. We still have a large amount of poverty. We used to talk about agriculture and the state of agriculture. The whole farm protests we are seeing is about the same issue. So on one hand, the sobering thought and the humbling thought is that we haven't been able to do much. If we 27 years ago were told that these were big problems that India faced, and if we had solved them, then the new lot would have been taught different things, but we are teaching them the same thing again. But on the other hand, when I look at the journey in the last 27 years that the country has made, it is a fairly significant move forward. A very, very poor country now is an emerging economy. Now is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, except for the last 2-3 years. Now is the favorite destination of just about every Fortune 500 firm. Millions of people have been taken out of poverty. Per capita incomes have all gone up. All these modern infrastructure that you see across the country now is something that is very recent. The metro rail that you travel in, beautiful airports that are being built. So there has been significant improvement on some fronts. There are still very big challenges, and therefore the civil service itself remains as important and as critical as it was 27 years ago when I joined.
Fantastic. So since definitely, if there is an ocean, and if you drink a lot of water also, still ocean is ocean. That's why I'm asking a lot of questions to you. Don't mistake me. Since you're here, I don't want to leave you. I know you're a very busy person, but I just want to ask you one question. Sir, the last 8-9 months about the pandemic, about things were not good. Entire world, you talk about specific our India, our Telangana state. So what suggestion would you like to give to youngsters? Because last 8 months they were in their houses, and thanks Almighty from 1st Feb, things were normalized. So what message would you like to give to youngsters, sir?
Yes, I hope that over the last 1 year, a lot of you used that opportunity to stay at home, to relax a little bit, to read a little bit, to watch some television, to be with your family, which normally we don't do in busy times. So if that has happened, it has been very good, very welcome. I particularly enjoyed the last 1 year because I got a lot of time to read, to think, to write, to play football and cricket with my children. On the other hand, this has been a tough time for a lot of people. People have lost jobs. A large number of people have withdrawn their children from schools. Several people fell ill. Some of them unfortunately died. When such a long period of disaster happens, whether it is an earthquake, whether it is a fire, whether it is civil strife that you see in some countries in Africa, the major impact that it has on the population is that it leaves a lot of them mentally disturbed. And that's my first advice, that I would like all youngsters to now introspect and see whether they feel depressed, whether they feel defeated, and shrug that and fight that as much as in many ways possible. There is a word in Urdu called mayusi. It is that mayusi that one has to fight now. And know that, okay, 1 year is not a big period in a life of 60, 70 years. It is nothing in a country's life of thousands of years. So fight that, because it is perfectly possible that a lot of you, because of the different difficult circumstances, will feel a little down and out. That is the second is that you should realize that while the going is tough, there is an improvement that will happen, and this improvement will throw up new opportunities. They will throw up new jobs, and therefore be prepared for those. For example, in education, very clearly the future of education now has been redefined. There are new jobs that will come up in the market, and for those you have to learn new things. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, data mining, media. These are all new techniques, and therefore, if you are not fit for the economy pre-COVID, you can certainly be a star in the economy after COVID. So learn those new skills. Third, I hope all of you have understood that it is very important to be careful with expenditure. It is so easy for us to earn money and spend it. But the last 1 year, I hope, has taught everybody that it is important to also be careful with that spending. What you need not buy today, don't buy. Postpone it, at least for some more time. Keep any extra consumption away, because you will need money. You will need money because jobs will come later. You will need money because you have to go back to school. You will need money because your household income must have reduced. So be careful about consumption and spending. Anything that can be postponed, please postpone that. Those are my 3 points.
Fantastic. Well, all it means, one thing quite clearly understood to all the viewers is, the knowledge what you're giving, definitely it will be very instrumental. Now, since, we don't want to take much time, just the last and final question, that is, sir, how the youngsters should find out the passion, sir? Because what usually I know these days, there are few engineers. Today they love engineering, tomorrow they love medicine. So today one person is in arts and tomorrow he wants to be a scientist. So what I want, because the experience what you have, the knowledge what you have, if you can just tell our viewers, that will be of great help, sir.
Wonderful. See, some of you will be lucky, very few of you. You will be lucky because you will immediately, automatically, without working for it, get into the area that you are most passionate for.
Very true.
And some of you are lucky. You get into mechanical engineering and realize that building machines is my passion. Or you are a media person and you get into media and realize that this is what I want to do all my life. Rahul Dravid starts playing cricket and realizes that this is what I want to do. So that's a very few. Those are very blessed and lucky. For most of us, to be able to finally get to a niche where we enjoy ourselves requires us to make many mistakes. And therefore, my advice is, don't bother. Make as many mistakes as you can. You want to get into modeling, go there. If you are a failure, get out, start teaching. Failure there, start playing football. It really doesn't matter. Make as many mistakes as you want to, and finally you will land up in a place where you will say, okay, this is what I want to do. Or maybe you don't land up in a place, but you would have enjoyed doing all those things. There are several people who have done 5, 6, 7 different things in life, and they keep doing that till they get old. That is also something that you should enjoy. The basic idea is that you should be able to at the end of the day, at the end of every day, count and say, okay, today I made that much of contribution to my family, to my society, to my community, to myself. Once you've done that, it really does not matter.
Fantastic, sir. One thing, I want to say, the time what you have taken and given to us, thank you for that. We are very thankful. Now, indeed, it's a privilege and honor. The reason why I'm saying all these things is, the knowledge what you have shared, it's not only for Twin Cities, not only for Telangana, not only for India, across the world, people will bless you because the knowledge what you share, that's instrumental. Thank you so much, sir. It's a privilege and honor. We are very thankful for that.
Thank you
so much for your time, sir.